Do you see this as a U.S. strategy, just to try to avoid to undermine his war effort, but not to allow Ukraine to let Ukraine win this war?
No, I wouldn't go that far. I think we have done as much as we can with the resources that have been provided. Again, $61 billion is a massive quantity. Yes, a lot of that is replacing in our stockpiles what we have provided to Ukraine, but it also means that we can give more to Ukraine. And again, it's a staggering amount of assistance for another country at a time when we're supporting another ally and partners in the Middle East, and we're obviously focused very intently on what has to be the main effort, which is deterrence of aggressive action in the South or East China Sea. So this is very, very substantial. I don't buy the idea that we're just giving them enough to keep them from losing. We're giving it's never as much as we can, but you have to evaluate also still what is this doing to your own posture. And we've drawn down some really critical munitions and weapon systems, very, very substantial. We've pulled them out of other potential war zones. So again, I think we have done and provided unprecedented assistance. I'd like to see us do even more for sure. And I hope that will continue. There is, at the end of the day, strong bipartisan support for Ukraine in both houses of Congress and in the White House. And I think that actually will continue regardless of who's elected and regardless of some of the campaign rhetoric that we have heard from one of the candidates.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said that now could be the right time to negotiate with Russia to try to find a peace. Do you feel that Ukraine now is in a strong position to negotiate with Russia from a position of strength?
Well, I'm a soldier, not a diplomat or a politician.
I mean, militarily.
That's just so that you understand why I'm going to be a bit direct. I'm not sure that I see that. I think it is great to see what has happened in Kursk, but it's still an ongoing operation. It's great to see the extraordinary casualties inflicted on Russian forces in Donetsk and Luhansk and elsewhere along the front. But that front is not fully stabilized yet. I think you actually have to achieve a different dynamic. I think you have to get to the point where Russia realizes this is really hurting us, which is why you have to go to targets in the Russian Federation, not just on Ukrainian soil. So I don't assess this to be the position of strength from which I'd like to see Ukraine as a strong supporter of Ukraine, as someone who's been coming here actually since it was still part of the Soviet Union and watched it evolve so impressively in recent decades in particular, someone who wants to see the terrible ambitions of Vladimir Putin completely frustrated, and who has been sanctioned by Putin, I might add, as well. So, and having been beaten out by Putin for Time Man of the Year in 2007.
And I also would like to cover recent statements from G.D. Vance. He said that Trump's plan to end the war in Ukraine could consist of a frozen conflict, a demilitarized zone, and could involve barring Ukraine from joining NATO. From your perspective, how do you see this? What is your take on such plans? There are also such plans in media.
This is campaign rhetoric. I don't understand what he's talking about, frankly. And I don't think it's workable. I don't think either side is ready to negotiate right now. It takes not just one, but two. And again, I think Putin still is not convinced that he cannot achieve his objectives, at least in Donetsk and Luhansk. And until we have helped Ukraine show that he's not going to achieve his ambitions, and the longer the war goes on, the worse it's going to be for him and for his people, you won't have that kind of position from which you could actually negotiate something meaningful. And by the way, for those countries that are trying to push Ukraine into a negotiation with Russia, especially one that might officially give up some of sovereign Ukrainian territory, there should be an ironclad security guarantee part of that, which would include membership in NATO, and there should be a fast-track path to the EU membership as well.
And my final question for you, the United States has confirmed that Iran had provided Russia with ballistic missiles, short range, but it could be even more range in the future. Do you think that it could be a sign of the big failure of the U.S. deterrence around the globe?
And not necessarily, although I think we have issues with deterrence of certain actions, obviously not succeeding. I think the biggest effort in deterrence with Iran is to ensure that they never take the final step to enrich to weapons-grade uranium and make a nuclear weapon. We have said that if you do that, we will destroy your nuclear program. And when I was the U.S. Central Command commander, it's publicly known that we developed a plan to do just that. But no, again, there's all kinds of actions around the world that, again, we'd rather not see taking place, but I don't know that they have been the subject of huge efforts of deterrence. And in fact, U.S. and others are going to put more sanctions on Iran. I suspect after the election that you'll see substantial additional sanctions imposed on Iran. Right now, during an election season, we want to allow them to continue to export their 1.5 million barrels of crude oil and distillates, or else the price of gasoline at the pump will go up. You can't ever forget the relevance, if you will, of domestic politics in a U.S. presidential election year.
Thank you, sir, for your time, for your support for Ukraine, for advocating for more aid for Ukraine, and glory to Ukraine.
It's a moral obligation to do that, and glory to Ukraine indeed. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.